Synchronization complete. A translucent blue message box appeared in front of my eyes. It was the so-called system, that kind of existence. Welcome to the hidden route of how to save our world. Damn it, I cursed. Main quest conversion content. As the first believer and leader of the Kairos faith, help the god Kairos to drive away the evil god Diego. Goal: convert more than 80% of the population on the Celeste continent to become a believer of the god Kairos within 3 years, currently 0%. Success. Failure. Death, soul annihilation, world destruction. This quest is automatically accepted as the main quest of the hidden route. I couldn't help but swear. It was time to admit it, that I had entered the game a few hours ago. I finally saw the ending of How to Save Our World, a game I had been playing for a whole month and also known as H-Saw. H-Saw was a game that I bought for 30,000 won. I was lured by its flashy illustrations. 30,000 won might not be considered a lot of money for others, but it was the money that I gained by working hard, smiling, chatting, and catering to the needs of annoying customers at my part-time job for hours. And I had spent that money on this. This is a game. A crappy game. H-Saw was a choice-based RPG game with a medieval fantasy world setting, where the protagonist was literally a loser. If I made a wrong choice in the story even once, the protagonist would die or the world would end in a bad ending. And once I died, I had to start over from the prologue. Not to mention, unlike the flashy illustrations, the in-game characters were 2D. I guess they spent all the budget on the illustrations. It was obvious without saying. The game review window was full of harsh criticisms, and there were countless refund requests. Even if I ignored all the other flaws, the difficulty itself was hellish. If I had given up on the game like other players, my future wouldn't have turned out like this. But because of my personality that had to finish what I started, I saw dozens of bad endings and finally reached the true ending. The loser protagonist finally saved the world and let peace set in. Seriously. It was fun while it lasted, but let's never see each other again. With the intention of deleting the game right away and never looking at it again, I smiled brightly and tried to press the game's exit button. But at that moment, a message appeared on the screen. Congratulations, you are the first to clear the true ending. Because the game was too hard, I've heard that there weren't many users who tried to reach the true ending. But I never expected to be the first one to clear it. I was happy to have the title of first and smiled when the next message followed. Do you want to proceed with the hidden route? Yes/no warning. The hidden route has the same story as the original game, but the difficulty is higher. Hidden route. I had never heard of a hidden route in this game. It must be something that only appears after seeing the true ending, so this must be another first for me. First clear, followed by the first hidden route. The warning message below the choice bothered me a bit, but I didn't have much to think about. I've done this so many times. How hard can it be? My competitive spirit rose and I pressed the yes button right away. Any Korean probably would have made the same choice as me. But I, Jeong Jae-hyun, would soon regret this choice. Because right after pressing the button, my vision turned blurry and a splitting headache hit me simultaneously. Soon after, I lost consciousness. That was what happened a few hours ago. I woke up in a world with an unfamiliar ceiling, and in front of me was a system message. Main quest conversion content. As the first believer and leader of the Kairos faith, help the god Kairos to drive away the evil god Diego. Goal: convert more than 80% of the population on the Celeste continent to become a believer of the god Kairos within 3 years, currently 0%. Success: failure, death, soul annihilation, world destruction. This quest is automatically accepted as the main quest of the hidden route. Why did it have to be H-Saw? But that wasn't all. Are you kidding me right now? The main quest that appeared at the same time was unbelievable. The main content of H-Saw that I played was simple. It was to make the male protagonist Tertius Austin save the world. The one who helped Tertius was none other than the god Kairos, the god of Kairos faith, which most of the Celeste continent, the main setting of H-Saw, believed in. But why? Why are there no believers of Kairos faith right now? And why is my given quest conversion? First, I decided to calm down and calmly racked my brain. So to summarize, the god that most of the continent believes in right now is probably Diego, the evil god in the original work. In conclusion, it's not only about pushing Diego away, but also about having 0% of Kairos believers. This means you want me to be a cult leader, and I didn't even have the right to refuse. No, this is really too much. As if it wasn't enough to be dropped into this world out of nowhere, you want me to be a cult leader. And when I thought about the warning message of the hidden route, I felt angry. The story is the same. In the original work, the ratio of Kairos faith and Diego faith was 5-5, half and half. But this world was not 5-5, but more like 0-10. Damn system. This is a different story. I expressed my anger towards the system in my mind. After a few minutes, I finally accepted reality. Maybe it was because I had read a lot of web novels and webtoons in my previous life. I was able to adapt faster than I thought. I took a deep breath and thought calmly. It was a crazy situation, but I had no choice. I didn't have the right to refuse in the first place, and it was a matter of soul annihilation. And maybe, if I finish this, I might be able to leave this world. Of course, that doesn't mean I want to go back to where I came from. The life of Jiang Jai-hyun, who had no friends, no family, and my specs wasn't that good either. A job seeker who failed to get a job repeatedly with average education and grades. That was my life. Well, what's the point of that now? I had to complete the main quest to survive. Fortunately, I still had 3 years. Depending on how you look at it, it might be a short or a long time. I'll survive somehow, I will. Even if it was by doing a cult route. But why is there world destruction in the failure penalty? Doesn't that mean I'll die anyway if the world is destroyed? I closed my mouth tightly as I thought so. This is too much. I sighed heavily and slumped on the bed. There was a stumbling block to survival. My eyes went to the mirror near the bed and my changed appearance came into view. First of all, my race was different from my previous life. Pale skin with clear veins, golden hair, blue eyes, slightly upturned eyes, and a thin body. A sickly pretty boy. No, a sickly pretty young man. The only part that was similar to me was the tear mole under my left eye. No, wait. The age is the same too. 25. The original name of this body was Reveloff Holden. He suffered from a terminal illness. It was known as Malone's disease, a disease that only existed in this world. Well, that's not important right now. If you're going to possess someone, why not possess the male lead or someone close to him? Anyway, I knew well about Reveloff Holden. He briefly appeared as an extra at the beginning of the game, and was someone the players passed through at least once in any ending. There's also the fact that Reveloff Holden's memories somehow flowed into me. Anyway, the original work started with the male protagonist Tertius visiting the territory of Reveloff's family, the Holden earldom. There was a brief appearance of the Holden earldom situation in the original work. When Tertius Austin entered the Holden earldom as the start of his mission to convert the Herfian Empire, where the majority of the people worshipped the evil god Diego. The Holden earldom was facing its second disaster. The first disaster was 2 weeks ago when the second son of the Holden family committed suicide. And the second disaster was, that's right, I was that second son who committed suicide here, but the flow was different from the original work. In the original work, this body should have died a few hours ago, but it changed when I came in. But the story should be the same. Then the start of the original work would be in 2 weeks. Actually, I didn't need to know the flow of the original work right now. Don't I just have to convert people? That was all that the main quest wanted. It was then. Tutorial quest occurred. Tutorial quest religion creation content. Create a religion for the god Kairos. Goal: consult with Kairos and name your religion. Success. Failure. This quest is automatically accepted as a tutorial quest of the hidden route. I snapped out of my thoughts after the appearance of a new quest. It was fortunate that this quest had no failure penalty. It must be because it was a tutorial quest. But there was something that bothered me in the quest content. Consult with Kairos. No matter how I thought about it, this was impossible. It didn't make sense. Even if this world was inside a game, Kairos was a god. How can a mere human like me consult with a god? Maybe I have to consult with him through prayer or something. Ugh, I don't want to do that. Squeak! Suddenly, a creepy ringing sound came to my ears. Greetings, my child. As soon as the ringing stopped, a low male voice followed. But unlike normal voices, it didn't sound through my ears but through my head. Could it be Kairos? Yes. I am your god, Kairos. No, is this real? Is this possible? I was so surprised that I just blinked. In all the web novels, webtoons, games, etc. that I had encountered, direct communication with a god was impossible. There was a significant gap between gods and humans. And yet, I heard Kairos' voice directly. Not only that, it was a two-way communication. How is this possible? I am weak right now. Suddenly, Kairos' voice became smaller, and then I understood. Oh, I see. Just as I knew, gods were beings that became stronger as their myths were spread and their believers increased. But right now, Kairos has only one believer. My child, you are my only believer and the envoy who will work for me. Yes, I know that. But can you stop calling me child? Why? Aren't you a child? Compared to me, you are like a newborn baby. If we go by age, maybe. But if we go by power, aren't you also a baby among gods? I said calmly, and then I heard Kairos sobbing. What? Why is he crying? I was dumbfounded. But, although he was a god, he was crying. I felt sorry for him somehow. Kairos, I'm sorry, don't cry, sniff. I made a mistake, I know. Thankfully, Kairos' crying gradually stopped. By the way, Kairos was so timid. There was no direct appearance or communication of Kairos with the male protagonist in H-Saw, so I had no idea that his personality was like this. Anyway, what I had to do now was decided. Kairos, do you have a name for your religion that you want? I asked Kairos after he had completely stopped crying. Yes, of course. Kairos answered in a bright voice. How about the beautiful and glorious golden beauty of God Kairos' faith? What? My lamb, I am the God of beauty. You don't know that, do you? It's true, I didn't know. Kairos was only described as a good god in the original work, so I didn't know his title at all. Oh yes, I knew that. But from now on, Kairos would be like my direct boss, so I had to please him a bit. Although it seemed like I already messed up by making him cry. But don't you think that's too long? How about just naming it after Kairos' name and calling it Kairos' faith? There were many religions in the world. But unlike the world I lived in before, most of the religions in this world were named after their god's name. So Kairos' faith seemed like a reasonable name. Aren't you too simple? No, this is a good length. It's easier for the believers to call it. Now that you say that, I see. Okay, you are my first believer, so let's do as you say. A weak god like me has to listen to his believer. No, this guy, I'm sorry, okay, heh. I was joking. What? Tutorial quest religion creation cleared. You will receive the tutorial quest reward. As soon as the agreement on the religion name was over, a message appeared. I looked at the translucent window and lit up my eyes. Quest reward. I was very curious about what it would give me since the quest content only showed a question mark for the reward. And I was also excited. Thump, thump. My heart was beating happily when Kairos' voice continued. I will reward you with a holy relic for working hard for me. As soon as he said that, my vision turned white. I couldn't close my mouth. It felt like I had gone blind for a moment. The handsome man surrounded by light had a familiar yet unfamiliar appearance. Long red hair that reached his waist, sparkling golden eyes, a high nose, and a sharp face. He was a perfect piece of art. He simultaneously looked majestic and beautiful because his bare upper body was delicately muscled. Wow! Even though he was a man, I couldn't help but admire his appearance. But that moment didn't last long. He disappeared in an instant, and all that was left was a white sphere of light. Ahem. I tried to manifest myself to deliver my first holy relic, but I guess I'm still lacking in power. I heard Kairos' awkward voice, and I was worried that he might dig a hole again. Fortunately, he didn't do that. By the way, Kairos, you were hundreds of times more handsome than the illustration I saw before. Are you really the god of beauty? I have to make a statue of that face someday. For now, I reached out my hands towards the sphere that appeared after Kairos disappeared. Then it gradually came closer to me. Soon, the sphere of light came on top of my hands and started to transform into something long and thin. And finally, it revealed its shape. This is a holy relic. No matter how I looked at it, this was just a wooden stick. It was about 1 m long with a thickness of about 20 cm at the head, and it got thinner as it went down. It was just the right size to hold with one hand and swing around. But why is the holy relic a stick? I couldn't believe it. There were many other holy relics that Kairos used in the original work. There were swords, shields, and various other types. But why do I get a stick? You have acquired the holy relic Kairos stick. Along with the item acquisition message, information appeared. Kairos's stick, holy relic, grade, mythical item, description. A stick with the power of the god of beauty, Kairos. As this is the first item given by Kairos, who is weak in power, the power of the stick will exponentially increase according to your faith in Kairos. The appearance was just an ordinary wooden stick, but the content was different. But why does the power depend on my faith? The holy relic must be stronger than ordinary items regardless. The good thing was that this item was an offensive type weapon and also a holy relic. In any case, I needed a weapon soon, and this was just my luck. Thank you, Kairos. Don't mention it. It's nothing for my first believer, although I did squeeze out all my strength. I ignored Kairos, who seemed to be fishing for compliments, and examined the stick. Does it have that function too? If this world was the hidden route of H-Saw and there was a system, it would probably be similar to the original work. Inventory. Swoosh, as expected, I was right. A large, translucent window appeared just by thinking of inventory in my head. It looked almost identical to the inventory I saw in H-Saw. I looked at the countless empty slots in the inventory and put the stick inside. Then the stick was sucked in and took the top spot. Phew! That was a relief. I almost had to carry that monstrous thing around. I sighed in relief and sat down on the bed. By the way, if there was an inventory, there would also be a status window or a skill window. Should I check? Knock, knock. At that moment, someone knocked. Sir, it's time to wake up. I realized it too late at the voice from outside the room. I quickly turned my head and looked out the window. It was already morning. I woke up in the middle of the night, but I had a lot of things to do, so I didn't realize how fast time had passed. I decided to look at the status or skill later and lay down on the bed right away. And I covered myself with a blanket as naturally as possible. I had no choice. Reveloff Holden was weak in the morning. Sir, maybe because there was no answer, the door opened. And the one who came in was Paul Crown, the butler of Koro. The old man with a kind impression was a butler who had served the Holden family for a long time. He knew the real Reveloff well, and he could easily notice if I showed a different attitude. So I had to do my best. Cough, cough. Good morning, Paul. I pretended to wake up and greeted him with a cough. Thanks to Reveloff's memories that were engraved in me, I could act smoothly. And Reveloff's personality was similar to mine, so I didn't have to act much. Paul didn't seem to feel anything strange either, and he came closer to me. You look happy today, sir. I feel a bit lighter today. Oh, that's good, really. Paul's eyes moistened in an instant. He looked at me with pity. He couldn't help it. Reveloff Holden was a terminally ill person who had an incurable disease that no doctor could cure. He said he had about a year left to live. Right, so Reveloff lived on painkillers every day. Reviloff Holden's disease was Malone's disease, which only existed in this world. It was a disease caused by being bitten by a Malone bug. Most people just felt itchy when they were bitten by a Malone bug, but some unlucky ones got a serious disease. The Malone bug infiltrated the blood vessels and parasitized the host, absorbing blood and nutrients until the host died. It dried up the host and turned them into stone statues. At this point, there was no cure for Malone's disease in this world. The Malone bug had antibodies to most treatments, but I knew how to cure it. The male protagonist got Malone's disease in the latter part of the original work. I knew what the cure was and how to get it, so I would get better soon. The timing might be a bit vague, though. Anyway, I wouldn't die while spacing out. I didn't want to die so meaninglessly. "Do you want me to call Dr. Frank?" Paul, who looked at me pitifully, asked. I shook my head. "No, I'm fine." Dr. Frank was the Holden family's physician, but I refused right away. Actually, I felt heavy since I woke up in this body, but I was okay for now. There was no bleeding, which was one of the main symptoms of Malone's disease, but Paul seemed to understand differently. His eyes reddened and then moistened. "Sir." Soon, Paul grabbed my hand with his wrinkled hand. Then he turned his head and wiped his tears. "Please don't lose your will, I beg you." Yeah." Paul took out a handkerchief and blew his nose, then smiled faintly. "You must be hungry. I'll bring your meal to your room soon." "Wait, Paul." I stopped Paul, who was about to leave the room. "I'll eat in the dining room today." "Excuse me." Paul was surprised again. Reviloff always ate alone in his room. I thought about doing that too, but I changed my mind. I need freedom. I didn't want to stay in this room like Reviloff did. I had to get the cure as soon as possible to save my life. I had to get better before I could do anything else. Of course, I could send a servant, but that might raise suspicion if I suddenly changed my appearance. So I have to make a plan first. The morning of the Holden family was always busy like any other noble family. The servants paid attention to everything, but there was one part that they put the most effort into. It was cleanliness. They especially cared about it for the sake of the second son of Holden, who had an incurable disease. Of course, the second son, Reviloff Holden, didn't wander around the mansion much, but you never know. "I hope our sir will get better soon." "Yeah, me too." The servants sighed softly and continued to clean, and then they were surprised. "Sir Reviloff." It had been almost a few years since the second son of Holden came out for breakfast. I was dumbfounded, but although he was a god, he was crying. I felt sorry for him somehow. "Kairos, I'm sorry." "Don't cry, sniff." "I made a mistake." I know." Thankfully, Kairos' crying gradually stopped. By the way, Kairos was so timid. There was no direct appearance or communication of Kairos with the male protagonist in H-Saw, so I had no idea that his personality was like this. Anyway, what I had to do now was decided. "Kairos, do you have a name for your religion that you want?" I asked Kairos after he had completely stopped crying. "Yes, of course." Kairos answered in a bright voice. "How about the beautiful and glorious golden beauty of God Kairos' faith?" "What?" "My lamb, I am the god of beauty. You don't know that, do you?" "It's true, I didn't know." Kairos was only described as a good god in the original work, so I didn't know his title at all. "Oh yes, I knew that. But from now on, Kairos would be like my direct boss, so I had to please him a bit. Although it seemed like I already messed up by making him cry. But don't you think that's too long? How about just naming it after Kairos' name and calling it Kairos' faith? There were many religions in the world. But unlike the world I lived in before, most of the religions in this world were named after their god's name. So, Kairos' faith seemed like a reasonable name. Aren't you too simple? No, this is a good length. It's easier for the believers to call it. Now that you say that, I see. Okay, you are my first believer, so let's do as you say. A weak God like me has to listen to his believer. No, this guy. I'm sorry, okay. Heh, I was joking. What? Tutorial quest religion creation cleared. You will receive the tutorial quest reward. As soon as the agreement on the religion name was over, a message appeared. I looked at the translucent window and lit up my eyes. Quest reward. I was very curious about what it would give me since the quest content only showed a question mark for the reward. And I was also excited. Thump, thump. My heart was beating happily when Kairos' voice continued. I will reward you with a holy relic for working hard for me. As soon as he said that, my vision turned white. I couldn't close my mouth. It felt like I had gone blind for a moment. The handsome man surrounded by light had a familiar yet unfamiliar appearance. Long red hair that reached his waist, sparkling golden eyes, a high nose and a sharp face. He was a perfect piece of art. He simultaneously looked majestic and beautiful because his bare upper body was delicately muscled. Wow! Even though he was a man, I couldn't help but admire his appearance. But that moment didn't last long. He disappeared in an instant, and all that was left was a white sphere of light. Ahem. I tried to manifest myself to deliver my first holy relic, but I guess I'm still lacking in power. I heard Kairos' awkward voice, and I was worried that he might dig a hole again. Fortunately, he didn't do that. By the way, Kairos, you were hundreds of times more handsome than the illustration I saw before. Are you really the god of beauty? I have to make a statue of that face someday. For now, I reached out my hands towards the sphere that appeared after Kairos disappeared. Then it gradually came closer to me. Soon, the sphere of light came on top of my hands and started to transform into something long and thin. And finally, it revealed its shape. This is a holy relic. No matter how I looked at it, this was just a wooden stick. It was about 1 m long with a thickness of about 20 cm at the head, and it got thinner as it went down. It was just the right size to hold with one hand and swing around. But why is the holy relic a stick? I couldn't believe it. There were many other holy relics that Kairos used in the original work. There were swords, shields, and various other types. But why do I get a stick? You have acquired the holy relic Kairos stick. Along with the item acquisition message, information appeared. Kairos' stick, holy relic grade, mythical item, description, a stick with the power of the god of beauty Kairos. As this is the first item given by Kairos, who is weak in power, the power of the stick will exponentially increase according to your faith in Kairos. The appearance was just an ordinary wooden stick, but the content was different. But why does the power depend on my faith? The holy relic must be stronger than ordinary items regardless. The good thing was that this item was an offensive-type weapon and also a holy relic. In any case, I needed a weapon soon, and this was just my luck. Thank you. Kairos. Don't mention it. It's nothing for my first believer. Although I did squeeze out all my strength. I ignored Kairos, who seemed to be fishing for compliments, and examined the stick. Does it have that function too? If this world was the hidden route of H-Saw and there was a system, it would probably be similar to the original work. Inventory. Swoosh, as expected, I was right. A large, translucent window appeared just by thinking of inventory in my head. It looked almost identical to the inventory I saw in H-Saw. I looked at the countless empty slots in the inventory and put the stick inside. Then the stick was sucked in and took the top spot. Phew! That was a relief. I almost had to carry that monstrous thing around. I sighed in relief and sat down on the bed. By the way, if there was an inventory, there would also be a status window or a skill window. Should I check? Knock, knock. At that moment, someone knocked. "Sir, it's time to wake up." I realized it too late at the voice from outside the room. I quickly turned my head and looked out the window. It was already morning. I woke up in the middle of the night, but I had a lot of things to do, so I didn't realize how fast time had passed. I decided to look at the status or skill later and lay down on the bed right away. And I covered myself with a blanket as naturally as possible. I had no choice. Reveloff Holden was weak in the morning. "Sir." Maybe because there was no answer, the door opened. And the one who came in was Paul Crown, the butler of Koro. The old man with a kind impression was a butler who had served the Holden family for a long time. He knew the real Reveloff well, and he could easily notice if I showed a different attitude, so I had to do my best. Cough, cough. "Good morning, Paul." I pretended to wake up and greeted him with a cough. Thanks to Reveloff's memories that were engraved in me, I could act smoothly. And Reveloff's personality was similar to mine, so I didn't have to act much. Paul didn't seem to feel anything strange either, and he came closer to me. "You look happy today, sir." "I feel a bit lighter today." "Oh, that's good, really." Paul's eyes moistened in an instant. He looked at me with pity. He couldn't help it. Reveloff Holden was a terminally ill person who had an incurable disease that no doctor could cure. He said he had about a year left to live, right? So, Reveloff lived on painkillers every day. Reveloff Holden's disease was Malone's disease, which only existed in this world. It was a disease caused by being bitten by a Malone bug. Most people just felt itchy when they were bitten by a Malone bug, but some unlucky ones got a serious disease. The Malone bug infiltrated the blood vessels and parasitized the host, absorbing blood and nutrients until the host died. It dried up the host and turned them into stone statues. At this point, there was no cure for Malone's disease in this world. The Malone bug had antibodies to most treatments, but I knew how to cure it. The male protagonist got Malone's disease in the latter part of the original work. I knew what the cure was and how to get it, so I would get better soon. The timing might be a bit vague, though. Anyway, I wouldn't die while spacing out. I didn't want to die so meaninglessly. "Do you want me to call Dr. Frang?" Paul, who looked at me pitifully, asked. I shook my head. "No, I'm fine." Dr. Frang was the Holden family's physician, but I refused right away. Actually, I felt heavy since I woke up in this body, but I was okay for now. There was no bleeding, which was one of the main symptoms of Malone's disease. But Paul seemed to understand differently. His eyes reddened and then moistened. "Sir." Soon Paul grabbed my hand with his wrinkled hand. Then he turned his head and wiped his tears. "Please don't lose your will, I beg you." Yeah." Paul took out a handkerchief and blew his nose, then smiled faintly. "You must be hungry. I'll bring your meal to your room soon." "Wait, Paul." I stopped Paul, who was about to leave the room. "I'll eat in the dining room today." "Excuse me." Paul was surprised again. Revilov always ate alone in his room. I thought about doing that too, but I changed my mind. I need freedom. I didn't want to stay in this room like Revilov did. I had to get the cure as soon as possible to save my life. I had to get better before I could do anything else. Of course, I could send a servant, but that might raise suspicion if I suddenly changed my appearance. So I have to make a plan first. The morning of the Holden family was always busy like any other noble family. The servants paid attention to everything, but there was one part that they put the most effort into. It was cleanliness. They especially cared about it for the sake of the second son of Holden, who had an incurable disease. Of course, the second son, Revilov Holden, didn't wander around the mansion much, but you never know. I hope our sir will get better soon. Yeah, me too. The servants sighed softly and continued to clean, and then they were surprised. Sir Revilov. It had been almost a few years since the second son of Holden came out for breakfast. I recalled the functions of the H-saw in my head one by one. Inventory, skill, status, window. Is this all there is? There were more functions in the H-saw, but for some reason I could only use these three. First, the inventory was the same as I had seen before. A space where I could put in items infinitely, nothing more. The skill window was surprising to see just by being opened. This world was a hidden route in the game, so it made sense that there was such a window. I shouldn't have any skills, but why do I have one? Beauty of God, passive grade, mythical description, a mythical grade skill for the first believer of Kairos, the god of beauty. This skill increases your beauty in proportion to your faith in Kairos. As I read the skill description, I wondered, would this be helpful to me? Well, Revilov's face was already handsome to begin with. Of course, not as much as Kairos. He was from a godly realm after all. No, when I saw Kairos, I almost felt a thrill. Then maybe I can increase my fans, no, my believers with my face like celebrities do. For a moment, I imagined myself doing fan service like celebrities. I can't do that. No matter how I think about it, I can't do that. No, but still, people can't spit on a smiling face. So let's try to smile more. Yeah, that's right. I decided to do that and moved on to the next one. Status window. This was a bit unexpected. User: Revilov Holden Jeong Jae-hyun. Age: 25. Birthday: December 25th. Religion: Kairos Faith. Job: leader of Kairos Faith. This was more like a profile than a status window. I thought there would be levels or stats since this was a game world. It was kind of disappointing. No. Maybe it's better that there are no levels or stats. Levels and stats have limits. If I recognize those limits and fail to overcome them, then what? Wouldn't that be more unfortunate? That's a good attitude to have. Ugh. I was startled and got goosebumps when I suddenly heard Kairo's voice. Even though we were mentally connected, it was embarrassing to be caught in such a situation. Don't read my mind whenever you want. What's so shameful about it? We are mentally connected to each other anyway. Stop saying such embarrassing things, hee hee. Okay, okay, I got it. Stop teasing me with that tone. Awa, don't be so uptight. You can close your mind if you don't want me to hear it. Really? How do I do that? Just imagine a lock in your mind and close it. You can also lock away any memories that you don't want me to see. I tried to do as Kairos said. I imagined locking away my memories before the possession in a huge space and also putting a lock on my mind. And then I cursed at Kairos in my mind. Oh, it really works, But I think I can guess what you were thinking anyway. Yeah, sure you can. I didn't know how much Kairos had read my mind before, but there was one thing for sure. He didn't know that this world was a game world. If he knew everything I thought, he would have realized that this was a game world and felt very confused. But he didn't show any of those signs. Maybe there was some kind of filtering system, or maybe our mental connection wasn't that strong enough to make it possible. Both were plausible explanations. Anyway, now I could relax. If I had to compare, Kairos and I were like talking on the phone with each other. Phew. I let out a sigh of relief and finished what I was doing. I looked carefully at the status window to see if there was anything else, but there was nothing special. By the way, now being the leader of Kairos Faith is my job. It felt like I had officially become a cult leader when I saw the word leader on my job title. It felt like my nose was pierced. I'm a cult leader. I unconsciously slumped my shoulders when Kairos shouted indignantly. Cult? How can it be a cult when I exist? Yes, you're right, that's true. But from Diego Faith's perspective, we are a cult. Well, that's true, but even though I couldn't see Kairos' face, I felt like he was more dejected than me. Should I comfort him? I wondered when suddenly a message appeared. A new function, religion status, has been added. You have acquired the title Leader of Kairos Faith. Leader of Kairos Faith. You are the leader of Kairos Faith, the religion of the god of beauty, Kairos. Your beauty increases slightly in proportion to your faith in Kairos. The title system existed in the original work, so I didn't mind it much, but I had never seen the title Leader of Kairos Faith before. The effect was the same as the beauty of God's skill, so I skipped it. But what about the religious status? I had a rough idea of what it was just by looking at the name. But did the function open because I recognized myself as a leader? As I opened the religion status, a window similar to the system window I had seen before appeared, but there was a difference. Religion status, Kairos Faith Leader. 1 Reveloff Holden High Priest. 0 Paladin. 0. Total number of believers. 1. This is just like statistics. But the function itself didn't seem bad. It looked like I could check people's names and positions in the religion. Then, I noticed something that caught my eye. Oh no. That's when I fully realized the reality I was in. The total number of people in the religious status was only me. Wait a minute, only one person. I was shocked beyond words by one realization that crossed my mind. I didn't realize it even after creating a religion myself. Yes, that's right. That one number referred to me. That meant the real protagonist of this world, Tertius Austin, was my enemy. The owner of H. Saw Tertius had been a believer of Cairo's faith since about a year before the original work started, and more than half of the continent believed in Cairo's faith, but now it was different. Cairo's faith had just been established and I was the only believer. That meant Tertius was at least not on my side, and at worst he could be a Diego faith. I should say it's almost certain. I pondered for a moment, then I concluded. There's no choice, even though I became enemies with the original protagonist. It didn't matter. My main goal was to convert people to Cairo's faith, regardless of the original work or anything else. Of course, there was a stumbling block, Diego faith. Maybe the world would end before I finished my main quest. Diego was a vicious, evil god, but in 3 years anything can change. At least I had an advantage in terms of information. Well, if I really need him, I can try to woo him to my side later. By the way, the difficulty had increased dramatically as the system said. I didn't know if anything else had changed, but if it followed the original flow somewhat, there are many things I can use. There was no need to think too complicatedly. If I thoughtfully used the information I had, I would somehow manage. Phew. I breathed deeply. I felt like I could live now. Maybe it was because I had a nosebleed and fainted during a meal 2 days ago. My physical condition deteriorated rapidly after checking the system. I endured the pain that felt like stabbing my whole body and took some painkillers that were in my room. After that, I fell asleep as if I fainted and repeatedly woke up from my sleep. From time to time, my mother and Sevenus came to see me worriedly, but now I was fine. Although I don't know when I'll faint again. My lamb, do you know how worried I was? Come to think of it, I think I heard Cairo's worried voice every time I was conscious. I'm sorry for making you worry. No, what do you have to be sorry for? Kairos burst into tears again. I ignored him and looked at Paul. Paul, I want to go out today. Sir, but your condition is. I'm much better now, but if you go out and faint again. It's okay, Paul, I don't faint for a few days after fainting once, and I'm not going far. I'm going to Ellen, the closest town to the mansion. Paul's resistance was broken by my words. It was true after all. Okay, I understand. Then I'll get ready. In the end, Paul left the room with his hands and feet up. I ate the food that he had prepared for me in the room and thought, well, I can go out now, but I had to be alone to buy the cure for Malone's disease. I have to hide my identity while getting rid of the escort knights. There was no way. I had nothing right now. Of course, there were items for disguise in the game. In my current state, I can't possibly get them. That's the problem. They only existed in other cities, so I couldn't go that far with this body. Do you need help? As I was eating and thinking, Cairo's voice came to me. He seemed to have stopped crying. Yes, I have to avoid being recognized by anyone. My lamb, let me help you. What? As I asked Cairo's back, a white sphere of light appeared in front of me. This was the same light as when I got hit by a stick. Maybe he was trying to manifest himself again. But no. The light of the sphere faded and formed a shape. Unfortunately, Cairo's didn't have enough power to manifest himself. And what appeared was glasses. They were glasses with large, round lenses. You have acquired the holy item cognitive dissonance glasses. They looked like ordinary glasses, but they were holy items. I checked the item information right away. Cognitive dissonance glasses, holy item grade, mythical item description. Glasses imbued with the power of Kairos, the god of beauty. They distort the cognitive ability of others who look at the wearer. It seemed that if I wore these glasses, other people wouldn't recognize my face. This is not bad at all. When I do my cult leader work, I can wear these glasses and take them off normally. Thank you, Kairos. Yes. It's nothing. I would have liked to manifest myself and give it to you personally, but anyway, even if you wear those glasses, your appearance will remain the same, but others won't realize that you are the second son of the Holden family. Ah, I understand. It's like a hypnotic effect that makes me look like an ordinary person while keeping my dazzling appearance. Thank you so much, Kairos. You gave me another holy item. For my beloved believer, it's only natural. Ahem, but there's something. Yes, Kairos. Kairos, who had been very enthusiastic, coughed timidly and added, I might not be able to make any more holy items for a while. What? Making a holy item consumes a lot of power each time. In the future, when my power becomes stronger, I'll be able to make them more often, but Kairos trailed off in a gloomy tone. It wasn't unexpected, but I had hoped to get more holy items since he gave me one from the start. It was a pity, but I had already obtained a weapon and a disguised item, so I had what I needed. It's okay, Kairos. I comforted Kairos, who was still gloomy, and put the glasses in my inventory. I got on the carriage with the Holden family crest and finally breathed a sigh of relief. It was hard to go out. The knights assigned to escort me were originally 4, but I adamantly refused. I couldn't move freely with too many people. I had to act with all my might in front of Paul, who saw me off. It's okay. Don't worry too much, Paul. Besides, it's more uncomfortable for me if they swarm around me like this. I was going to the most bustling place in the territory anyway, so I asked him to reduce the escort by half. I said I was too burdened by it. Thanks to that, I was able to go out with only 2 of the most skilled knights from the Holden family. I wanted to walk there since it was close to the destination, but I had to get on the carriage because of Paul's fierce opposition. And it took less than 10 minutes for the carriage to arrive at the destination. The carriage stopped in a quiet alley and the door opened and the knights reached out their hands to me. Please get off, sir. It was a well-known fact that the second son of the Holden family was frail, so it was natural, but it was embarrassing to be supported by sturdy knights as I got off. Thank you. I got off the carriage and put on a robe and came out of the alley with the knights. It was my first outing since I woke up in this world, and without realizing it, I was excited. This is the most bustling town in Holden territory. Ellen. The streets of Ellen were similar to what I had seen in the game. There were shops from the medieval era and lively citizens everywhere. It's amazing to see it like this. I stopped for a moment and looked around. It felt real that I had come here. The voices of merchants from all over, the laughter of children running around, the sounds of lovers' affection. They were all nice to hear. Well, except for the last one. And even though there were so many people, no one recognized me. I haven't gone out since I was very young. It's comfortable and nice. Sir, do you have a specific destination? I shook my head at the knight's question. No, I just came to look around. That's when it happened. There was someone who stood out among the crowd, a man with a head taller than most people and a beast-like huge body caught my eye. Dark black hair and jewel-like red eyes, a beautiful appearance that no one could deny. And yet no one approached him because of his overwhelming aura that made him hard to approach. Like me, they all just looked at him. Why is he here? He was none other than the protagonist of Saw, Tertius Austin. He's much more handsome than the illustration. My first believer, who is that boy? He's quite beautiful, though not as much as you. What? Oh, I wonder, who could he be? Sure enough, as Kairos said, Tertius was not a good of beauty, but he was also among the beautiful ones. Tertius looked around carefully as if he was looking for something. I quickly turned my head away as I felt like our eyes would meet. But why is he here? There was still time before the original story began. Oh no, I realized I hadn't counted the time I spent complaining. It was time for him to enter Holden Ring. That means soon that incident will happen. I would eventually run into him while moving for the main quest, but not yet. And at this point, I couldn't exactly tell where Tertius belonged, let alone his clothes. I couldn't guess his affiliation because he was wearing a robe like me. Also, if I assumed he was from Diego Faith, I would be doomed if I got involved with him. So I moved in the opposite direction of Tertian. Fortunately, the knights who escorted me wore plain clothes so they didn't attract attention. I wondered and looked around the street for a few minutes. Why does it seem like everyone is staring at me? Of course they are. Why? You are my first believer and I am the god of beauty. How can people not be intoxicated by your beauty? Cairo's cheerful laughter followed. Ah, yes. Well, that's true. I felt it every time I looked in the mirror. It was all thanks to the beauty enhancement skill. My appearance was improving day by day. Was my faith in Kairos that strong? Or was it because I knew of Kairos' existence and that also counted as faith? Anyway, although I thought I was quite beautiful, I didn't expect it to affect a street full of strangers. Maybe things will be easier than I thought. It was about time. It had been an hour since I arrived in Ellen. I had to shake off the nights. I couldn't go shopping for the medicine with them. They would report it. Furthermore, if my family found out what the medicine was, they would oppose it with all their might. I had the holy relic stick anyway, so it wasn't that dangerous without a night escort. Of course, my body was weaker than a leaf on the street right now. But I have a lucky item. My current state was no different from a beginner at level 1 who holds a max-level weapon. It would be fine. I just have to wait for the right moment. We entered a quiet street and saw a bench where we could rest. Along with the knights, I headed straight to the bench. I sat on the bench and leaned back to show them how tired I was. Are you exhausted? Do you want to go back? I breathed heavily and the knight asked me with a worried look. I shook my head. I'm fine, I just need a break. Okay, I understand. At my words, the two knights guarded the bench. Didn't they know that this would attract attention? Apparently not. I have a favor to ask. I smiled and spoke to them. There seemed to be no one among the servants in the mansion who could resist my smile. Can you buy me some water and some simple snacks? Yes, okay, Jack, go get them. Wouldn't it be faster if you both went? What, but then you would be alone, sir. What if you faint while we're gone? Hey, it won't take more than 5 minutes. I need some freedom too. The knights looked troubled. Oh, just a little more and they'll agree, right? I've lived in the mansion all my life. Even if it's just for a moment, I want to be alone for a while. I won't budge from here, okay, please. I gathered my acting skills from when I used to work as a service worker and tried to look as pitiful as possible. I hoped my beauty would do its job too. Okay, if it's just for a moment, then it's fine. But you have to stay here. We'll be back soon. It worked. Okay, don't worry. Sorry, I lied. In an instant, the knights disappeared into the crowd. I took this opportunity to take out my glasses from the inventory and put them on, and then I started running at full speed. Huff, huff. But why was I out of breath after running just for a few seconds? This damn body. My child, are you sure you're okay doing this alone? Of course. I have the stick you gave me, but I was sorry for the knights, but I had no choice. I have to heal my body first. So I ran at the fastest speed I could, even though I was much slower than a running child. I finally arrived at my destination, the back alley behind Ellen's downtown. Even in broad daylight, the dark alley was deserted, but it was fine, left here and then right. The map I saw in the game was already in my head. I walked quickly to where I was headed, a small pub with no name and an empty sign. There was no customer in the old and worn-out pub. Instead, an old man who was wiping a glass at the bar greeted me. "Welcome, what can I get you?" I felt a slight chill. The dialogue is exactly the same as in the game. I brushed my left arm and calmly answered, "I came to get a levial flower." The old man's eyes sank deeply. He looked at me as if scanning me, then opened his mouth after a while. "Follow me." The cold air hit me as I followed him down to the basement. After walking down the dark corridor, I soon arrived at a door at the end. Knock, 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 knock. The old man knocked on the door in a certain rhythm and the door opened. "Go ahead, you'll find what you want here." The old man turned around and disappeared the way he came. I went straight into the room. The basement was filled with musty air. There was a table covered with a red cloth and a man sitting in front of it. Behind him was a sturdy iron door. This is not a place for a fine young lord to come. As I looked around, the merchant smirked and looked me over. He was a handsome young man with green hair and brown eyes. He's better than the illustration, too. By the way, was he trying to flirt with me? I smiled back at him and threw him a pouch from my chest. Clink. As the heavy weight fell on the table, the merchant quickly opened the pouch. Gasp. His eyes widened as he saw the gold coins filling the pouch. It was part of the money I had received from Paul before I left. Sevenus said it was my first outing, and asked him to take good care of me. "What can I do for you, sir?" The merchant smiled widely and politely asked me after checking the amount. He had been fidgeting before, but now he was sitting upright. Who would say he's not a money lover? The most important thing for a secret shop to survive was trust. And he was a guy who would do anything for money, so there was no risk. He came back with a blue bottle in his hand after a while. "Here you go. The finest passeral poison." I took the bottle and checked the item. It was passeral poison as described in the original. It had a sweet smell, a buttery smell, and a beer smell mixed together. I put the item in my chest and turned around. "Please come again, sir, and don't forget to look for me, Zane." Look at this guy. The merchant, Zane, didn't reveal his name easily. There was only one situation where he would reveal his name. It was when he smelled money. Maybe things will be easier than I thought. I put the pastoral poison in my inventory as soon as I left the pub. My lamb, why did you buy poison? I have a use for it. Really? But this way. Isn't this the wrong way back? Ah, yes, I have something to check. As Kairos said, I wasn't heading to Ellen. I was heading deeper into the back alley. The alley was just a passage connecting Ellen and this place. When I reached the end of the alley, another village appeared. It's worse than I thought. This was Roval, a slum with an opposite atmosphere to Ellen. The village was full of old buildings that looked like they would collapse at any moment, and some people were lying on the street. There were also some people that walked like zombies with their shoulders drooping. Roval was always a slum, but they said it wasn't this bad. I scanned the view of Roval as if to imprint it on my eyes. Especially, I focused on people's appearance. They had blue spots on their exposed bodies. As expected, there wasn't much time left until the second disaster occurred in Holdenring. But I don't have much time either, so I should go back for now. I plan to come back soon, before the real disaster appeared. Ah, I'm tired. As soon as I finished my meal, I threw myself on the bed. I felt like I could fall asleep at any moment as I entrusted my body to the soft sensation. But I got up right away. I still had something to do. My lamb, how about refraining from personal actions next time? Right, I'll try to do that as much as possible. When I went to Roval alone and came back to Ellen, the faces of the knights who found me were grim. They said they would have gone back to the mansion and brought the night squad if I had been a little later. I have to sort this out now, or it might get more annoying later. I apologized earnestly to the two knights, saying that I was excited because it was my first outing. I begged them to keep it a secret since it wouldn't happen again. Fortunately, the knights who felt sorry for me agreed to my words. I can't lose the freedom I've barely gained. I loosened my stiff body with some light stretching and headed to the bathroom attached to the room. I took out the pastoral poison that I bought today from the inventory. The reaction began as soon as I swallowed a sip. Cough. Ah, my child, why did you drink that? A surge of pain wrapped around my whole body. It felt like I had been electrocuted and my heart rate sped up. Wah, no, my precious first child. You can't die like this. Puke. Blarg, I vomited blood after the pain. Thankfully, the pain subsided gradually. My head still hurts, though. I'm fine, Kairos. How can you be fine? You're bleeding a lot. This is a medicine. The medicine for the disease I have. HMPH, no. How can a poison be medicine? Sob, if only I was a little stronger, I would have healed you with my divine power. Sob, it's all because I'm useless. I comforted Kairos and started sprinkling hot water on the bathroom floor. HMPH, okay, if you say so as my believer. But what are you doing now? Cleaning. Luckily, I vomited blood here. It's easy to clean up. He screamed when I answered while cleaning diligently. How can you say that so easily? And Cairo's nagging didn't stop until I finished cleaning the bathroom. Save me. In the original novel, when Tertius contracted Malone's disease, he had 5 choices to make. The correct one was to ingest pastoral poison. I remember that he had to drink a sip every day until the Malone worms came out of his body. Pastoral poison was made from magical herbs, and it damaged the most vital part of the organ when consumed. But for someone with Malone's disease, the pastoral poison recognized the Malone worms as the most vital part of the body. It cured the disease with poison. It was really a case of fighting poison with poison. Furthermore, pastoral poison only attacked what it had targeted once and left everything else untouched. But it's too expensive and hardly anyone thinks of using poison as a cure. That was why Malone's disease was considered incurable. Besides, there weren't many people who suffered from Malone's disease in the world. Because of that, it was a field with little development and research. I should let them know about the cure later. It would be nice to subtly inform the medical community or develop it independently within the family. Since I don't have the conditions right now, I'll have to think about it later. Well, it's not urgent. Anyway, if I keep ingesting pastoral poison, the corpses of Malone worms will come out of my body. I don't know how long it will take. Speak of it, in the original novel, Tertius ingested pastoral's poison only a few days after he got Malone's disease. He was cured in less than a day, but my body is. I had been suffering from Malone's disease for over 10 years, so there was no guarantee of how long it would take me to recover. Maybe it was a lifelong disease. Still, I'll be grateful if my condition improves. I already felt better. I had cleaned the bathroom and returned to my room not long ago, so it was less than 30 minutes after I ingested the poison. My body feels light. I had no headache or dizziness. I smiled and took out a robe from my inventory and put it on with a "Hood, young lamb, where are you going at this hour?" Kairos, who had been whining until a moment ago, asked in surprise. Indeed, it was a bit late to go out. I'm going to save the world," I answered lightly with a smile. Carefully, I opened the door and stepped into the hallway. The Holden family's schedule started early in the morning and ended early as well. So even though it wasn't long after dinner, the hallway was quiet. I could hear some servants walking around occasionally, but it was fine. Everyone who stayed in this mansion knew that Reviloff Holden always went to bed early. So even if I sneak out, no one will look for me. In other words, all I had to do was escape carefully. I walked down the empty hallway as quietly as possible. Fortunately, I didn't run into anyone until I reached my destination. This is it. The place where I stopped was Holden's library. The entrance to the library was a large, arched wooden door. Instead of a handle, it was a disc. Holden's symbol was engraved on the disc, a sword wrapped with rose vines. If a member of Holden touched this disc, it would glow blue and open the door just like now. Creak, I looked at the door that opened automatically. The library was only accessible to members of Holden for generations. Externally, it was because of the countless books collected by Holden's first lord. They say there are more books here than in the royal palace. I went straight into the library. The library was magnificent in size. It was around 2 floors tall and as wide as a large hall. On the high shelves were books packed tightly, some of which were rolling on the floor. Well, there was a lot of dust. I covered my mouth with my hand and closed the door of the library. "My little lamb, didn't you say you were going out?" As I walked in, Kairos inquired me in a puzzled voice. You'll see." I smiled and headed further in. As I walked past the tall shelves, it started to get dark. There were lamps maintained by magic in various places in the library so I could see better. But the light was hidden by the shelves and disappeared as I went deeper. Fortunately, I found what I wanted before it was completely dark. The smallest and oldest shelf among the countless shelves. This is it. Unlike other shelves that were packed with books, this shelf only had 10 books and was as tall as me. Immediately, I moved my foot. Thud. When I kicked the right leg of the shelf lightly with my foot, the shelf started to shake. Squeak, a small wooden door appeared behind the shelf that slid to the right. "Wow, a secret passage," Kairos exclaimed, and I felt inexplicably happy. I immediately pulled open the wooden door. Behind the wooden door was nothing but darkness that couldn't be seen an inch ahead. But I felt a faint breeze blowing. It must be connected to the outside, but it was too dark, so I opened my inventory. I took out a lantern that I had prepared in advance. Oh, right. I should wear glasses too. No matter how few people knew my face, I couldn't risk revealing that I was the son of Holden. Besides, what I was going to do was something that I couldn't let anyone see my face. Well, let's go. After I finished preparing, I slowly headed inside. The interior was like a cave that only one person could move through. In fact, this place was a secret passage that connected to the outside and had existed since the first Lord of Holden. It was a place that the first Lord of Holden made to escape from his work. I learned about this space thanks to Revelov's memory. When he was very young, Revelov heard a story about the first Lord from his mother. It's probably the only place in the mansion that connects to the outside, so only members of Holden can use it. This passage led to an alley near Ellen. "My lamb, how are you going to save the world? It's simple. I'm going to spread your doctrine. That way the world wouldn't end." "Oh yes, that's right, that's right. But my lamb, do you know about my will? I already know it from reading the original novel, but I can't pretend to know it directly." "I don't know. That's right. Naturally, you don't know since my power is still weak." There was a sigh in Kairos' voice. He seemed a bit gloomy. I asked him kindly, "What is your will, Kairos? Actually, the doctrine is something that humans decide, not gods. But if I can convey my will..." Kairos hesitated for a moment. There is nothing more precious than life in this world. As expected, Kairos' will was the same as in the original novel. "But, Kairos, you are the god of beauty. Actually, I thought you would say that there is nothing more precious than beauty. It's surprising." It was a question that I had every time I played the original novel, and the question was resolved with Kairos' faint laughter. "My lamb, the title of god of beauty is not something that I gave myself. It's because I'm so beautiful that people naturally gave me that title." "Ah, yes, yes, of course." I answered vaguely and moved on. There was silence for a while, and Kairos suddenly said, "My little lamb." "Yes, actually I am." Kairos stopped and hesitated. Why is he like this? I can't forget those people I saw earlier. "What, the people we saw in the back alley, can't we help them?" That's when the system window popped up. Subquest triggered. Subquest saving lives description. Accept the will of Kairos, the god of beauty, who feels sorry for the people of Roval and save them. Objective, cure the people of Roval 0/10. Success. Failure, do you accept? Yes/no. I scanned the quest and unknowingly lifted the corners of my mouth. Really, he's too lovable. I immediately pressed yes and answered. I was on my way to Roval anyway. Just like you, I can't forget their faces either, Kairos. As expected, I knew it. You are truly my believer. Kairos praised me enthusiastically. You are my first believer. He seemed too excited. Well, actually, going to Roval was a side mission. The main mission was to prevent the second disaster that would happen in Holden territory in the original novel. If I prevent the disaster, I can save the people of Roval. Besides, Roval was. As I was lost in thought, I realized too late that I had reached a dead end. Oh, this way is already blocked. Kairos sighed, more excited than me. Instead of answering, I just lifted the lantern up. That is, the light of the lantern illuminated the ceiling of the cave. But there was a material that was clearly different from the inside of the cave that I had seen so far. It was a large disc with Holden's emblem engraved on it. I immediately put the lantern in my inventory and stretched out both hands toward the disc. I found it. The height wasn't too high, so my hand touched the emblem right away. The disc recognized me and glowed blue like the library door and moved smoothly. As soon as that happened, I saw the night sky with the cold night air. I stretched out my arms and pushed against the ceiling and jumped lightly. Fortunately, I was able to climb up easily. Even though I am recovering from Malone's disease, my body was so weak that I ran out of energy quickly. Ha ha. I caught my breath and looked at where I had come out. The floor returned to normal as if nothing had happened. To others, it looked like an ordinary stone floor. I should memorize the location, just in case. I looked around to prepare for when I came back. The place where I came out was a narrow alley. I remembered the geography as I left the alley. It wasn't hard to remember since I had been here once before. I walked quickly through Ellen's night streets and headed to the back alley. Before going to Roval, there was a place I had to stop by first. The people of Roval were currently addicted to a drug-like substance called happy. To be precise, it was more like a poison that was similar to a drug. So, fortunately, it could be cured. Then, the place I headed to was, "You're back again, customer," the secret shop where I bought Pasral poison. Unlike when I came during the day, Jane greeted me this time. He smiled brightly as soon as he saw me and welcomed me with open arms. "I didn't expect you to come back so soon." This guy, he didn't think I would look for him at all. Still, time is time. "Well then, shall we go inside?" I followed Jane to the basement. "What do you need this time?" Jane's mouth was hanging on his ears, maybe because he liked my wealth from our previous meeting. I took out a money pouch from my pocket and threw it at him and said briefly, "Mandrake root, as much as you can." I didn't need to be nice to this guy. As soon as he checked the money pouch, the smile on his face disappeared. "Please wait a moment." Jane put the money pouch in his pocket and went straight into the iron door. He came back soon with a pouch and handed it to me. I immediately checked the contents. The shape that looked like aloe was the same as what I saw in the original novel. "Customer." As I finished checking the contents, Jane called me. There was still no smile on his face. "Are you going to Roval to help them?" I didn't answer. I didn't even know what to say. Then Jane took my silence as a yes and sighed softly. "Be careful if that's the case. I'm telling you this because you're my customer. I don't want to lose a customer like you. I'm sure you don't. There wouldn't be a loyal customer who gave him a lot of gold coins every time he came. I nodded slightly instead of answering and left the shop. The night was getting late, so I thought about moving slowly. But I knew I would suffer tomorrow if I didn't get enough sleep today. This weak body of mine, my lamb. As I walked quickly towards Roval, Kairos called me. Yes. Do you know what that man meant by being careful? Well, I knew, but I couldn't tell Kairos. As I walked briskly, I arrived at Roval in no time. There were fewer people on the streets than during the day, but there were still some of them. First, I approached the closest one. I crouched down and took out the mandrake root. I took out one leaf and broke it into small pieces using my hand, then shoved it into his mouth. I did the same thing to the others around me. Some of them tried to resist the herb, but it was too late, as the herb was already in their mouths. After a while, their complexions improved rapidly. Their cloudy eyes gradually regained their focus, and some of them fell asleep. They would probably wake up with a clear head. The main symptoms of happy were blue spots on the body, lethargy, and impaired rational thinking ability. In other words, they were in a perfect state to fall for cults or multi-level marketing schemes. There were people who used this in Roval, and I was going to drive them out of Holden territory. Excuse me. As I was looking at them, a white-haired, skinny old man reached out to me. He was the one I had just put mandrake root in his mouth. He seemed to have something to say to me, so I approached him and crouched down. Who are you? Who are you to help us? He seemed to realize that I was helping them because of the quick detoxification. That's good. I'm just someone who wanted to help you. I almost said that I came from Cairo's religion. The ones who made Roval like this were also cultists. In this situation, telling them about another religion might create a negative opinion about Cairo's religion. For example, they might think that another cultist is pretending to help them and trying to control them or something like that. Your condition is not completely better yet. I'll leave this here, so please share it with the people in the village. There should be enough. I put down the pouch with mandrake root in front of the old man. This is mandrake root. If you take it regularly, the drug will completely leave your body. Thank you. The old man hugged the pouch I gave him and fell asleep quickly. Around me there were sounds of breathing and snoring from sleeping people. I was still crouching and looked around at them for once and then turned my eyes away to the system window that appeared in front of me. Subquest saving lives cleared. Subquest reward will be given. You have acquired the skill Heal. I had been aware of it for a while, but this was the first time I checked it properly. I didn't expect to get a skill as a subquest reward. I smiled and opened the skill window. Heal active LV. 1 grade legendary description, you can heal LV. 1 life forms LV 2. Locked LV 3. Locked LV 4. Locked LV 5. Locked experience 0/10. This is my lamb, you did a great job. You are truly my first believer. It would have been better if you had told them about my existence, but it's not too late to do that after they recover their health, he. Kairos was talking excitedly, but I didn't have the time to pay attention to him. I was surprised to get the skill in the first place, but what surprised me more was that I had never seen this skill in the original novel. Well, it's too late to react to this now. After all, the club and the glasses weren't in the original either. But still, the skill itself was a kind that didn't exist in H-Saw, so it was amazing. You can level up your skills. That's crazy. Kairos, thank you, Shriek. I was about to thank Kairos, but I couldn't finish my sentence. A cold sensation touched my neck and goosebumps ran through my whole body. What, when did, was he behind me this whole time? A huge shadow that appeared without my knowledge felt like it was going to devour me. Who are you? The voice from behind me was low and heavy. At the same time, I felt killing intent for the first time in my life. Cold sweat ran down from both of my hands and my instinct warned me. You'll die if you move recklessly. Be calm. Calm down. What is this? How dare you touch my believer? Kairos, calm down. I can't think rationally if you act like this. We need to be calm at times like this. Okay, I got it. At this time in this place with this kind of presence. I didn't need to check who it was. I knew. Tertius Austin. Then the blade that was close to my neck moved slightly away. I didn't miss the chance and turned my head and saw him as expected. His red eyes, which shone faintly in the moonlight, stared at me piercingly. Fortunately, his presence had subsided a bit, maybe because he looked around. I tried to hide my nervousness and opened my mouth with difficulty. I'm a religious person. I had no reason to reveal that I was a descendant of Holden, and I didn't want to lie either. Except for lying, not answering was the worst option. Which affiliation? Tertius glanced at me and asked. I believe in Kairos. Never heard of him, as expected. I forced a smile on my lips that wouldn't go up. It's a new religion that was established recently. I remembered the smile I used while working a part-time job in service and gave him a harmless smile. He said that while saving Tertius. Tertius was wearing a robe like me, but his collar was slightly exposed. On the black collar, there was a silver snake emblem. Damn, I wish it wasn't him. It was confirmed. The protagonist of the original work, Tertius, belonged to the evil god Diego Faith. I had a rough guess, but now I'm sure. That's why he didn't harm me. The god of Diego Faith, Diego, was a dictator in one word. He oppressed other religions that had some influence and even condemned and executed them as heretics. But he left small religions alone. There was no benefit in touching them, and small religions would disappear on their own anyway. Well, it's nothing but the whim of an evil god anyway. Anyway, thanks to that, I was sure that my life was saved. If he wanted to hurt me, he would have done it long ago. Swish, my thoughts were exactly right. Tertius finally put away the sword he had pointed at me. Then he looked at me like a bug and said coldly, "If you don't want to die, get lost." Look at his attitude. I was angry, but I could go to hell with one kick from him. Yes, I still kept a smile and got up from my seat. Life is precious. Well then, it's not because I'm scared. My poor child, you were scared. It's because I couldn't help you. I'm sorry, sob, it's not like that. I passed by Tertius and went in the direction to go back. I was just going to check the situation today anyway. By the way, it finally hit me. The difficulty level has doubled compared to the original work. If I had to define Tertius Austin of H-Saw in one sentence, he was a righteous hero. But now it was different. Tertius, who belonged to Diego Faith, had changed a lot. He's rude, cold-hearted, and most importantly, his eyes seem dead. In H-Saw, he was always smiling, giving hope to everyone, and was a bright individual. What on earth happened to Tertius? Even though I was an expert in H-Saw, I didn't know this part either. It was frustrating. Well, I'll find out sooner or later. When I got out of Roval completely, I finally relaxed a bit. Phew. That was close. My legs almost gave out, but I managed to walk with some strength. Then I heard Cairo's voice, who had stopped crying. "Are you okay?" "Yes, I'm fine. How can there be such an impolite guy, just because his face is half-half? Tusk, what can we do? He belongs to Diego Faith, that explains it. I felt the filthy snake's aura from him, ha ha. By the way, my lamb also realizes what kind of guy the filthy snake is. Although it seems that the humans of this world doesn't know much about him. That's how the world is set up. But I made a remark for Cairo's sake. Yes, I realized it after meeting you, Kairos. Oh really? That's really lucky. Yes. The believers who will believe in Cairo's faith from now on will also do that. I said that and entered the alley of Ellen. It wasn't hard to find the way I had memorized beforehand. As soon as I touched the ground, the passage opened. I lightly jumped down to the cave and took out a lantern from my inventory. I should go to sleep as soon as I get in. I didn't have much to do, but I was quite exhausted mentally and physically. It must have been because of the aftermath of meeting Tertius. My child, yes, I think I'm too anxious. Yes, what is it? When I saw the guy you met today, I didn't know when my lamb would come to my side. Does that mean he doesn't know when I'll die? So squeeze out your last strength and help me. Yes, yes, HNG. Along with a sound that seemed like Kairos was exerting his power, which was very unpleasant, a system window appeared in front of me. You have acquired 2 tickets for a one-time gacha. What is this, a gacha ticket? I couldn't help but be surprised. Of course, it was natural. There was no gacha system in H-Saw. Ah, my child, I will send you the angels blessed with my power. Oh, thank you, I was grateful, but a gacha system in a trash game like H-Saw. First, I opened my inventory and checked the item description. Agent one-time gacha ticket, 2 pieces, grade. Description: a gift from the god of beauty, Kairos. You can draw an agent from C to S grade. After reading the content, I frowned. No, how weak is Kairos that he gave me a random gacha ticket instead of a guaranteed one? Well, that aside, how do I use this ticket? Do I tear it out? As I wondered how to use it, I reached out to the inventory and took out the ticket. Flash. My eyes were blinded by white light. It was as if I had come to another dimension in an instant. The world was completely white and I felt a floating sensation all over my body. Ugh, I hate this kind of thing. But since Kairos gave it to me as a gift, nothing bad would happen, right? I tried to struggle, but nothing changed, so I stayed still for now. Judging by the silence of Kairos' voice, did I really come to another dimension? Pop, an out-of-place sound effect rang in my ears. Something appeared in front of me with smoke. This is a slot machine. No, why? Agent Gacha will begin. I smiled faintly at the message that appeared next. There was no gacha system in H-Saw, but I had cleared H-Saw, a trash game, after playing many games. It was unexpected but not unfamiliar. Besides, these gambling games were basically fun, so I liked them a bit. It's just that I didn't expect to do gacha here. Maybe the system adjusted to what I'm familiar with. This slot machine was a bit different from what I had seen before as well. Usually, you need 3 matching pictures to get a reward, but this one had only 1 slot and there were no pictures on it. Agent grade S, A, B, C instead. What occupied the slot was only the information about the agent grades. I had already confirmed this through the ticket information, but I was disappointed again. It depends on luck. I've never gotten the best thing from these things. Sadly, I wasn't very lucky. Sigh, pull the lever. As I sighed, a text appeared as if urging me. Well, whatever. It's all up to luck anyway. There's no point in worrying. I pulled the lever of the slot machine with all my strength. 2 agent gacha tickets will be consumed. As I moved the lever, a message appeared and I widened my eyes slightly. Wait a minute. What? It consumed 2 tickets instead of 1. Does it mean that 2 people will come out of this grade, or is it originally 2 tickets for 1 person? I didn't know what it meant, but I focused on the screen that changed every moment. The alphabet spun quickly and the slot machine made a loud sound effect as if to induce tension. Ding dong, ding ding, pop, pop, please, please, S grade, or at least in a grade. The slot machine started to slow down. It gradually slowed down and then, ding dong, the grade was finally decided. At the same time, Tertius Austin was still standing alone in Roval, his red eyes shining faintly. In the moonlight scanned over the residents of Roval who were lying on the floor asleep. They were addicted to happy until just before and had drifted away from ordinary human life. Their pale complexion, their limp bodies, children, old people, middle-aged men, young women, they were all like that regardless of age. But there was one person who caught Tertius' eye more than anyone else. The target of his gaze was a young boy who was sound asleep. Tertius couldn't take his eyes off him. "Brother, I'm fine." He looked up and saw himself with a pale complexion. "I always wished you were happy, brother, more than me." He had a smaller stature than his peers, a bloodless pale face and thin arms and legs. But his eyes always sparkled when he looked at him. The child of Roval, his face overlapped with that boy. Tertius couldn't take his eyes off him for a moment, then brushed his hair back. Just before, he had met a man who belonged to the Kairos church, something he had never heard of. Tertius tried to kill him. He was an obstacle to his mission. And yet he couldn't do it. He who was merciless to anyone couldn't do it. Why? Just because he helped the people of Roval. Because he saved a boy who resembled Ivan. No, it wasn't that. There was another reason, but Tertius couldn't figure out why. The only certain thing was he felt a familiarity with him. That was the moment, keying a sharp sound and a pain that made his head feel like it was breaking. The pain was brief and familiar. When the pain ended, there was no emotion left in his eyes that had been full of questions. Now it was time to do his job. The reason Tertius came to Roval was simple: Liza's church. It was because of a pseudo-religious group that was known to be related to the Devil King. His elite subordinates had already gone out for investigation, but they lost contact. His direct subordinate Ron asked him to dispatch himself, but Tertius refused. If the elites who were the vanguard lost contact, it was certain that Liza's church was close to the Devil King, so he went out on his own for a quick job. The third apostle of Diego Church, Tertius Austin himself. Tertius, who had sorted out all his thoughts, soon disappeared into the darkness. I clenched my fists tightly. I wanted to scream and jump around, but I gave up because I had no strength. But I was very happy. The grade written on the screen was S, and it was a dazzling golden S. They say if you wish hard enough, it comes true. I can't believe I got an S grade. But the probability itself didn't seem to be that low. Congratulations. You have drawn S-grade executives. As soon as the congratulatory message appeared, a bright light burst out of the slot machine. I closed my eyes because of the intense light, and when it quieted down, I opened my eyes and found myself back in the corridor where I had been before. This time, I was not alone but with the executives. "Hello, leader. Nice to meet you." As I heard unfamiliar voices, Kairos's voice came back. "Oh, they are the angels." Kairos was very happy, and so was I. There were two S-grade executives who appeared in front of me, and they were twins with the same appearance. They looked like they were just over 10 years old, but they were still an S grade, so it didn't matter. Anyway, these kids were cute children with brown hair and green eyes. They had the same appearance, but their clothes were different and easy to distinguish. One wore armor like a knight, and the other wore a pure white robe that wrapped around his body. The one in the robe even wore glasses without lenses, so there was no way to confuse them. By the way, they looked like ordinary kids in cosplay. "Hi, I'm Reveloff Holden. I'm the leader of Cairo's faith." The kids looked up at me with sparkling eyes, so I introduced myself in my own way. I had recognized myself as the leader of Cairo's faith for quite a while, but it was embarrassing to say it out loud. "I'm Alpheus. I'm the high priest of Cairo's faith who will help you, leader." Alpheus ran up to me quickly as his brown hair fluttered and then greeted me politely. A child this young was a high priest. Was it because he was S-grade? And if he was an NPC, he would know quite a bit about Kairos. "I'm Chester. I'm a paladin." Unlike the lively Alpheus, Chester looked timid. He came up to me hesitantly but with a smile on his face. They were both cute. "My little lamb, these two angels were born from my power, so I can send them my voice whenever I want." Ah, that's how it was. Alpheus Chester. I called the two kids who were smiling innocently. "What kind of power do you have?" I bent down to meet their eyes and asked. The high priest and paladin I could guess by their jobs, but I still wanted to hear it myself. "I can help you and look after Cairo's faith in general. For example, managing believers in temples and sometimes doing your work instead of you." Alpheus answered with his eyes shining brightly. "But he could also be the acting leader." "Wow, I like that. That's amazing." I stroked Alpheus' hair and the kid giggled. Then something pulled my clothes. When I turned my head, I saw Chester with his head down. "La leader, I can also do many things. I'm strong and good at swordsmanship, so I can protect you, and also, I can chop wood and also." Oh, I guess I paid too much attention to one person. Really, Chester is amazing too. I pretended to be surprised and stroked Chester's head too. Then his expression brightened up. "Thank you for coming to my side, both of you." I hugged the cute kids who would be my strength at once. I look forward to working with you. I look forward to working with you too. After a hug, I fell into a moment of thought. What should I do with these kids now? I drew them, but how should I arrange their accommodation? I wanted them to stay at the Holden mansion if possible, but I couldn't do that. I don't have any excuse. It wouldn't make sense to say that they were my guests who had been staying at home every day. They had never officially gone out, but they weren't familiar with anyone in the mansion either. Leader. When I was lost in thought, Alpheus called me, and he said as if he had read my mind, "You don't have to worry about our accommodation. We can stay in the subspace." Yes, 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 that's right. These kids are angels after all. Kairos chimed in too, so they were both NPCs who could live in the subspace. Really? That's a relief. I was relieved. Their accommodation was settled, so I opened the religious status. Alpheus and Chester. The two kids were officially members of Cairo's church. Religious status, Cairo's church leader. One level off Holden high priest. One Alpheus paladin. One Chester. Total number of believers. 3. The number of believers increased thanks to the kids. This is amazing. By the way, what are their real abilities? They must be great since they have high stats. Chester's ability especially intrigued me. Is he similar to Tertius if he's an S grade? It would be nice if he was more than that, but it would be good enough if he was equal. Even if Tertius belonged to Diego faith, he was the protagonist of this world after all. If he was equal to Tertius, he would be more reliable than I thought. I wouldn't need to take out my weapon, and he would be a great help in the third and final disaster that would hit Holden territory. Alpheus' power would also be very helpful if Cairo's church gained more believers in the future. I smiled contentedly and looked at the kids. Leader, please call us whenever you need us. Yes, yes. How is it, my little lamb? My power, yes, it's amazing. Kairos is the best. Wow, you turned this world upside down. Hoo-hoo, right? I'm the best, right? Even though I don't have much power left. If I could help my first believer, ha-ha-ha. So I kept flattering Kairos until I got back home. Sob. Asterisk E/N. Kairos is really adorable. I safely returned to my room and went straight to bed after a quick wash. I'm exhausted. I had a lot of things happen today. The most exhausting one was the encounter with Tertius, that guy. I couldn't believe he belonged to Diego faith. And judging by the fact that Tertius himself came to Roval, there wasn't much time left. Based on the original work, I had about 2 days left. If I didn't do something within that time, all the people of Roval would die, as it happened in the original work. There was not only the evil god Diego in the demon world, but also another being with a different nature, the Demon King, who was similar but different. The only good thing was that the Demon King's influence was not that great. He had less than 10% of the weight in the original work. So most of the original plot was dominated by Cairo's faith and Diego plot. The problem was, it was a world where the Demon King existed. The demon world. The Demon King focused on connecting the human world and the demon world. Where the human world and the demon world were connected, there were cracks and monsters poured out. The Demon King was someone who messed up the world like that. His ultimate goal was to make the human world like the demon world. So, he sometimes infused his power into humans through the cracks. The second calamity of Holden's territory began there. It was called the Massacre of Roville. The story was simple. A few years ago, someone who inherited the power of the Demon King in a human body founded a religion called Rise's Church, and it secretly spread to a corner of Holden's territory, Roville. To deal with Rise's Church, which had gained followers, Diego Faith began to send their subordinates to Roville. The Demon King and the evil god might seem similar at a glance, but their ideologies were completely different. The evil god wanted to subjugate all humans under his will, while the Demon King wanted to turn humans into monsters. Therefore, in the original work, the three religions, including Cairo's church, often clashed with each other. Anyway, the evil god Diego hated the Demon King. Because of that, he ordered his followers to exterminate the power of the Demon King wherever they found it. The followers of Diego Faith finally discovered the tale of the Demon King after an investigation, but it turned out to be Rise's Church branch in Roville. I sighed softly. In H-Saw, Diego Faith sent elite subordinates of the Inquisition to Roville. But Rise's Church didn't just sit back and fought back against them. When the third apostle, a high-ranking official of Diego Faith and the leader of the Inquisition, learned of this, he personally stepped in. As Diego Faith and Rise's Church confronted each other for a long time, innocent citizens of Roville died in the process. In that situation, Tertius confronted the third apostle in the original work. Of course, he didn't win because of the difference in power, but he prevented more innocent citizens from dying. But now, damn, Tertius, who would have stopped the situation in Roville, was a member of Diego Faith. And judging by the current flow, he must have become Diego Faith's third apostle. I didn't expect Tertius to be in that position, but let's put that aside for now. Actually, I wasn't interested in the fight between the Demon King and Diego. As long as I increased Cairo's Faith's influence while they fought bloody battles, it was enough for me. The problem was that shrimps died in whale fights. E/N. He means that the weak might die amidst the fight of powerful people. Diego Faith also regarded Roville's citizens who were addicted to happy, a drug that Rise's Church deliberately distributed to coerce them as Rise's Church's followers, and executed them on the spot. The only good thing is that there is still time. Tertius wouldn't move right away. If he had intended to move right away, he would have killed Roville's citizens who were addicted to happy before he met me. If the flow was the same as in the original work, it would happen 2 days later. He seemed to be looking for something in Ellen. Just like the third apostle in the original work, he was surely looking for his elite subordinates. So I had about 2 days left. In the original work, too, things didn't happen as soon as the third apostle entered Roville. Anyway, I have to go to Roville tomorrow. The good thing was that I now had a reliable ally. Hopefully, Chester's ability would be quite strong. My thoughts ended there, because I fell asleep as if I fainted. I really slept well today. I woke up lightly when the sun was high in the sky. I thought I was tired yesterday, but I guess I was really exhausted. I lazily got up and decided to have a meal in my room. I pushed some soup and salad into my mouth and sank into my thoughts. There was actually another way to save Robles people. Before Rise's church and Diego faith collided, I could make Rovel's citizens leave the town. However, if that happened, even if Rovel's citizens were safe, Rovel wouldn't be safe. Their home would become ruins and they would lose their place to return. Of course, it was possible to support them with Holden's power. But even with Holden's power, that wouldn't heal the wounds in their hearts. So, I have to settle things before they get bigger within my line. Besides, I had something to gain from Rovel. Sir, is it not to your liking? When I stopped eating because I was thinking, Paul, who was waiting next to me, asked cautiously. I immediately shook my head at Paul. No, Paul, it's delicious. Then I'm glad, but do you have any worries? Yeah, a little. I'd like to listen if I can help you, sir. No, it's okay. I could trust Paul, who had served our family for generations, but it wasn't something I could tell him or anyone else. And if I carelessly talked about Rovel, it would get into his ears and annoy me. The reason why Rovel, which was close to the center of Holden's territory, became like this. The bugs will disappear when I get rid of the trash. The lord who was entrusted with Rovel's affairs by my mother was busy going back and forth to the palace lately. Everything happened because of that bastard. So I had to solve that problem as well. Of course, if I solved the problem that would happen in Rovel first, it would naturally be resolved. Thank you for always taking care of me, Paul. I finished my meal roughly and sent Paul out of the room, and then I sat down on the bed. I wanted to try it right away yesterday. I didn't feel like doing it yesterday because I was tired. But today I had to try it using skills. The only skill I had right now was healing, and it was a kind that I had never seen in H-Saw, so I didn't know how to use it either. But usually these kinds of skills, I put my right hand on my chest, heal, and as soon as I thought about it, a bright light bloomed from my hand. It wasn't an enormous light, but it felt holy, just like when Kairos appeared. Oh, of course, you're my first child, my baby. Your holy power is the same as mine. The light soon faded away, but I felt a strange feeling. This is holy power. Maybe it was because I became connected with Kairos and became the leader of Kairos faith, having a skill that could heal using holy power. But why? Nothing seems to happen. I used the healing skill, but nothing changed in my body condition, especially the disease. The Malone worm hadn't come out yet. Did the skill not work? Just in case, I opened the skill window again. Then the bottom part of the healing skill caught my eye. Experience. 1/10. It was definitely 0 before, but it became 1 after using the skill just now. It seemed that the skill itself was activated properly since I used it for the first time. Was there no effect? Or was the effect too weak? The skill description itself was vague and I couldn't tell. It can heal living beings. That was all there was to the description. Was it because the level was low or because my disease itself was deep? I don't like this. What's the point of having a skill? I can't even tell its exact range. It was then. Healing active LV. 1 grade legendary description. The effect increases proportionally to the skill level LV. One heals wounds and restores fatigue of living beings. LV 2. Locked LV 3. Locked LV 4. Locked LV 5. Locked experience 1/10. I doubted my eyes. The description of the skill window changed in real time as I glared at it. What the hell? Did it understand my annoyance? I narrowed my eyes at the skill window. Come to think of it, when I recognized myself as a leader before, a title and a religion status menu appeared. Could it be that this system is friendly to me, or is it monitoring me in real time? Hey, answer me. I spoke to the skill window with faint hope. Hey baby, are you seeing things, huh? But nothing happened. The only thing I heard was Cairo's fuss. Are you feeling weak, HM? Do I need to give you more strength, This is embarrassing. No, don't worry about it. I covered my flushed cheeks with both hands. What do you mean no? You were just talking to thin air. Are you really okay? Yes, I'm really fine. Kairos kept grumbling, but I tried to ignore him. Anyway, it seems that Kairos can't see the system window. That's good. No, should I say that's good? If Kairos could see it too, he would have asked me about the changing text. Forget it. That's not important right now. Anyway, according to the description, the effect increases depending on the skill level, and with my current healing skill level, I can only heal wounds. That's why the disease wasn't cured. Then raising the level is the priority. It seems that it won't be hard to level up since I get 1 experience point per skill used. I can level up quickly just by healing Roval's patients. The problem is, Reveloff Holden can't let anyone know that he has healing power. The only ones who have healing power in this continent are the priests of Diego faith. If I show this power carelessly anyway, I can't get involved with them right now. So I'll only use this power when I wear glasses. Well, this is not a skill that I need right away. For now, I put aside my thoughts and headed to the bathroom, and I prepared to drink pastoral poison. My baby angel, it's hard for me to watch you drink poison. As soon as I took out pastoral poison from my inventory, Kairos started sobbing. Just think of it as antidote poison, okay? It cures poison with poison. Well, that's true anyway, but still, sniff, it's my fault. I'm too weak. It's okay. Stop digging your own grave, okay? I consoled Kairos briefly and opened the lid, and as I was about to put it in my mouth, bang, the bathroom door opened. Reveloff, you were here. What are you doing? The one who opened the door and came in was a handsome man with silver hair that reached his waist. It was Severus Holden. Damn, let's think calmly. The situation that Severus saw was just that his younger brother was trying to drink something in the bathroom. He wouldn't know that what I was drinking was pastoral poison. It's not like the bottle had pastoral poison written on it. So, showing a flustered look here would be the worst. The best thing to do is to act calm. Ah, brother, you're here. For a noble family, don't you have too little privacy? I wanted to say, why are you barging into someone else's bathroom? But if he said he was worried about me, a patient, I would have nothing to say. So I spoke calmly. I should lock the door better next time. Yeah, but what are you doing? Severus narrowed his eyes and looked at me with a face that said he didn't understand at all. This is a perfect situation for him to think something weird if I don't make an excuse quickly. I could tell by his expression. Oh, I just brought something cool to drink before washing up. As I smiled calmly, Sevenus' expression softened a bit. His eyes were still full of doubt, but he seemed to let it go for now. Phew. I sighed inwardly with relief and carefully approached Sevenus. By the way, what brings you here, brother? Sevenus looked busy these days as much as mother. If he came to find me at this time, did he have some free time? Oh, well. For some reason, Sevenus' cheeks turned slightly red. What's wrong? Why is he acting like this? He. His embarrassed look is so cute. Kairos was very pleased with himself. He was an adult, no, a head taller than me, and he found Sevenus' embarrassed face look cute. Kairos had a strange taste. Come with me. Huh, what? Come with me. What? At least tell me why. But Sevenus didn't say anything to me, turned around and left the bathroom. I had no choice but to put the pastoral poison in my inventory and follow Sevenus. He didn't say anything as we left the room, walked down the hallway and greeted the servants as we left the mansion. What is it, really? As we left the mansion, a cool breeze blew and filled the air with the scent of flowers from the garden. It wasn't too bad to see the beautifully bloomed flowers and trees. But Sevenus, where are you taking me? It's not like he called me to take a walk in the garden or something. Fortunately not. He didn't say anything as we passed through the garden and the stable. We arrived at the training ground for the knights. The knights were training even now. Why did he bring me here? Oh, it's the princes. Hello. The knights who were training greeted me and Sevenus. Some of them were the ones who accompanied me when I went out. I waved my hand lightly from beside Sevenus, who just nodded his head vaguely. Looking at Sevenus entering the training ground, it seemed like this was our destination. Why me? My child, have you ever offended your brother? What? It seems like he wants to bully you. No way. I said that, but I felt like it might be true. When I recalled Revelov's memories, this brother was distant, but not long ago I insisted on going out strongly. Of course, it was settled by vomiting blood. I felt goosebumps all over. Someone approached us then. Hello, second prince. He was one of the knights who stood out among those who were training. A handsome man with golden hair cut short to his neck and green eyes. Who is he? I've never seen him before. He had enough beauty to be a supporting character in HSAW, but he was a complete stranger to me. I am the most handsome knight in the Holden Knight Order, fanatic. He said that and smiled with a smug look. Did he just say he was handsome with his own mouth? Ugh, I hate it. Oh, he is quite handsome. Of course, not as much as my lamb. Kairos agreed, and I hated it more. He didn't notice that my expression was freezing cold and fanatic kept babbling. By the way, I ranked third in the popularity poll of Holden, right after the princes. Too much information that I don't need to know. I don't like that there is such a popularity poll, and I don't like that I and Sevenus are the first and second in that poll. Ugh, I felt like my magic resistance was dropping, because I had never seen such a character in the original. By the way, why did he suddenly pop up and act like this? When I had that question, Sevenus, who had been silently watching the situation, spoke with a face no different from usual. From today on, Fanatic will help you with your physical enhancement. Huh, what? This narcissistic guy. He's one of the best knights in the order, so you can trust him. He's a bit peculiar, though. That peculiarity is the biggest problem. He's also your age, so try to get along with him. What about my opinion? Before I could say anything, Sevenus tapped my shoulder lightly. Now that you're free to go out, I think it's right to increase your physical strength. Some exercise will help. He was right. I also plan to exercise and increase my strength, but only by myself. Of course, if I did it alone, I would need some excuse to cover it up, because what I knew was to exercise knowledge from modern times. So the current situation wasn't bad. I understand. I nodded reluctantly. Good. Then, Fanatic, take good care of Revelov. His physical strength is almost non-existent, so be careful. Yes, Prince, don't worry. I know as much about the second prince as the doctor. Why? Okay, then work hard. Sevenus left the training ground with a satisfied look on his face for some reason, leaving only me and Fanatic behind. Wow, by the way, you're really beautiful, second prince. Fanatic smiled brightly at me. Oh, thanks. Well then, shall we sweat and run beautifully together? Oh, please. It seems my guess was right. Save me, really. I returned to my room when it was almost evening. Ouch, my body. You're a knight. I don't know about your mental state, but your physical strength is too good. I had to exercise with Fanatic all afternoon. Fanatic was as skilled as Sevenus said. He made me exercise within a reasonable range, considering my physical strength, and took breaks in between. Yeah, his exercise method was perfect. The problem was, my body was like a paper doll. How can you be so weak? Even though the training seems weaker than the home training I used to do. What kind of body do you have? So even though I didn't do high-intensity exercise, I was exhausted physically and mentally. I had muscle pain, of course, and my body ached. If I hadn't used healing skills to relieve fatigue, I wouldn't have been able to lift a spoon by now. And a while ago, I experimented while using healing skills on my body. The current experience of healing skills is 2/10. The skills experience increased depending on the number of uses, but it didn't increase unless I saw the effect. When I used the healing skill right after using it on myself, the skill worked but the experience didn't increase. It's a bit disappointing, but it's not a big deal. Of course, I wasn't disappointed because I expected it. Anyway, after exercising, eating, taking pastoral poison in the bathroom, and washing up, it was already late at night. I want to sleep a little. I was mentally tired even though I relieved my body's fatigue with healing skills. I asked Kairos to wake me up and try to sleep a little. There was no alarm in this world, so it would be perfect to use him as an alarm. But if I fell asleep now, it would be morning when I opened my eyes, so I gave up. In the end, I got up again 30 minutes after lying down in bed. I can't afford to relax like this. In case of any unforeseen situation, I set up the room to make it look like I was still sleeping under the blanket and headed to the library. Fortunately, most of the servants were asleep at this time, so I was able to safely reach the library. I chatted with Kairos about some nonsense while passing through the secret passage, then put on glasses and a robe. As soon as I arrived at the back alley, I headed to Jane's shop. You're coming here again today? Yes. There's something I really need to achieve today's goal. I was almost a regular now, so I just nodded to the old man at the counter and went downstairs. Jane greeted me with a bright face even at this time. Welcome, customer. I felt bad when I saw his face that was bright with money. Why is that? I narrowed my eyes and Jane noticed my mood and spoke with a sad business smile. What do you need today? 5 moonflowers and 3 white lizard tails. I have moonflowers, but I'll have to check if I have white lizard tails. Thud. I threw him the money pouch in my arms and Jane hummed a tune as he took the money and went into the iron door. He said he might not have the ingredients, but it took quite some time this time. There were several loud noises from inside the iron door and then he came out. Phew! Luckily there were exactly 3 left. He ran over to me shaking 3 white lizard tails with excitement. No, do you have to shake them? Here you go. Do you want me to pack them for you? No, I'm going to use them right away anyway. I took the moonflowers and white lizard tails from Jane and stuffed them into my robe pocket. But what are you going to do this time? I was about to leave when Jane suddenly asked. His mouth was smiling, but his eyes were more serious than before. Did he already get the signal? Why are you curious? Well, you don't seem to be afraid of them in Roval. It's probably because of yesterday's incident. You made a cure for Happy and helped the people of Roval, but you came back here again. Well, it seems like they haven't noticed yet, but they'll probably find out soon, right? Jane was talking about the Rises Church, of course. Jane was a merchant who traded many things. He had many hard-to-get items, but the most precious thing Jane had was information, so he was well informed. I smiled faintly and answered, I don't care. Why? You know what kind of bastards they are, don't you? Yeah, I know it very well, and their weakness, but I didn't need to tell him that, so I turned around. He must have bitten the bait by now. Soon Jane would come to me on his own. My child, what are you going to use those for? As I left the shop, Kairos asked me with a curious voice. You'll see soon. I headed to a deserted alley. My plan for today was to infiltrate the Rises Church branch in Roval and take care of it before Tertius did. Then I would be able to get that. Good. Perfect. At that time I thought my plan was quite plausible. You want to die, don't you? Didn't I tell you to get lost? Until I ran into Tertius on the wall of the Rises Church branch in Roval. My child, are you really going to do this? Of course. But isn't this a crime? Kairos asked me with a voice full of worry. Yes, it is a crime. But the ones inside are more evil. Is there no other way than this? Yes. I don't like it either, but I have no choice. Of course, it was a lie. It was just a way to appease Kairos. I see, if my little lamb says so. I heard a faint sigh from him. It seemed that Kairos had given up with both hands and feet. Anyway, I arrived at the Rises Church branch in Roval. I lifted my head and looked at the chapel inside the high wall. It's pretty even in the dark. It was clean and well maintained for a building in Roval, and it didn't look very old. All the lights were off because it was late at night. And the weather was also calm, without a single breeze. It's a perfect night for infiltration. I checked that the bright moon was hidden by the clouds and then moved towards the wall. The wall was high but not impossible to climb over. Hup! I jumped as high as I could and grabbed the edge of the wall. Then I squeezed out all my strength and pushed myself up with both arms. Ugh! This was killing me. Was this body for real? I barely managed to get on top of the wall. Can I get down? I was worried. I had done too much exercise during the day. I was rested, but I still had muscle pain. Damn it. I bit my lip and closed my eyes tightly as I jumped down. Thud. I fell down because I didn't land properly, but I wasn't hurt too badly. My child, are you okay? Yes, maybe. It was lucky that it was night. No one saw me like this. I was about to sigh in relief when I saw a shadow above me. Oh crap, someone saw me. If it was a Rise's church guy, he would have hit me with a weapon right away. So, I quickly looked up. But the one looking down at me was Tertius. Oh, bad timing. Of course, in the original story, the heretic inquisitor of Diego Faith also visited the Rise's church branch in Roville at midnight. But Diego Faith couldn't infiltrate the Rise's church's branch. The Rise's church's branch was protected by the power of Mazine wherever they went. And Mazine's protection couldn't be broken by the power of evil gods. They were both evil and evil, but they were too similar to each other to destroy one another, at least for protection. Anyway, Tertius couldn't break through Mazine's protection either. That's why he was here too. I'm unlucky. It was my fault for thinking that Tertius would act like the heretic inquisitor in the original story. The heretic inquisitor knew that it was hard to break into the Rise's church, so he waited for a chance when their believers came out during the day. So I thought Tertius wouldn't show up at night after yesterday. But he was still here. What should I do? I was just hesitating when a system message appeared. Unexpected quest occurred. Unexpected quest together with Tertius content. 2 heads are better than 1. Move with Tertius. Goal: punish the Rise's church branch in Roville with Tertian. Success: slight increase in Tertius favorability. Failure: do you accept? Yes/no. I skimmed through the content and felt incredulous. Are you kidding me? I didn't like the success reward. Favorability is just favorability. What's the meaning of a slight increase? I didn't need to go with Tertian either. I hesitated for a moment and then pressed yes. Then Tertius' lips opened. You want to die, don't you? Didn't I tell you to get lost? Yeah, I remember clearly. I tried to smile and answered. Ha ha ha, you did. It was embarrassing and awkward, but I couldn't stay like this forever. So I brushed off the dirt on my robe and got up. Then why are you still here? Well, I didn't know how to explain, but Tertius cut me off. From yesterday and today I can see that you are trying to save the people of Roville, aren't you? Oh, he's still sharp. I nodded my head with the most innocent smile I could muster. Yes, that's right. I'm just a religious person who wants to do good, but Tertius' eyebrows narrowed. You. Hey, that's too harsh. What can you do? You can barely climb over a wall. Ouch, watch your mouth. That guy, he must have been brainwashed by that snake bastard. How can he talk so rudely? Calm down, Kairos. I was boiling too, but I was holding back. But he was picking a fight with me openly. He was different from the original story, so I was surprised. Get out of my way, this is my last mercy. You. I decided not to get angry. I accepted the quest anyway. Why are you smiling? You can't even enter, can you? What do you know? Tertius' murderous aura burst out, but I didn't back down. At least I can get inside. I smiled as if to show off. Then Tertius' eyes wavered for a moment. It was like he was saying, how can you, but still. How do I believe that? Who asked you to believe? I don't care if you believe me or not. I just have something to do inside. I spat out coldly and walked past Tertius. Then I'll go. And when I took 1 step, 2 steps, and finally 3 steps, stop, Tertius grabbed my wrist. He fell for it. But I didn't care and looked at him with a blank face. "What is it? How are you going to get in? Why do I have to answer?" "You don't." Tertius clenched his mouth. His fierce aura also softened a bit. This was the time to show him my hand. "You want to get in too, right?" "Yes." "I can get in, so you need my help, right?" "Yes." "Then let's make a deal." "What?" Tertius' eyes widened slightly. "If you don't like it, I'll just go." I didn't need to make a deal with Tertius anyway. There was no penalty for failing the unexpected quest anyway. It was just a little favor for the protagonist of the original story that I liked. "Fine," Tertius answered in a voice as small as an ant. "But if you lie, you will die by my hand." "Sure, go ahead." Only then did he let go of the strong grip on my wrist. Phew, he's so strong. But it was lucky that Tertius had a similar trait to the original story. If Tertius had endured a little longer here, he would have met the Rises Church's executive who came out of the chapel. But he was impatient, so he was swayed by my words. Well, it was a life-or-death gamble for me too. I thought it was a tempting offer for him so I could be bold. "So what do you want?" he asked me while rubbing his wrist. "Simple. First, guarantee my life. No matter what happens, don't kill me." He could kill me as soon as I helped him get inside. "And after today, leave Roval alone. No, leave Holden territory alone." I finished my words and saw his eyes twitch slightly. It was a top secret that Diego Faith was in Roval. "Well, I can tell by the snake mark on your neck that you're a high-ranking person in Diego Faith." In Diego Faith, you could tell the rank by the position of the snake mark on the clothes. The closer the mark was to the head, the higher the rank. Tertian's eyes narrowed. "You have good information." The position of the snake mark wasn't top secret, but it wasn't easy to find out either. You need to have that much information to work in this field. I shrugged casually. "Anyway, that's all I want." Tertian was silent for a moment. He seemed to think for a few seconds and then nodded his head. "That's possible." He probably accepted because he could finish off Rise's church tonight with his power. But should I use something like Oath of Truth? I didn't trust Tertius very much because he had changed so much from the original story. Of course, he spared my life yesterday, so I had some trust in him. "My child, can you really trust that guy? That's what I'm worried about." As I was thinking, Tertius opened his mouth suddenly. "Swear by your name. If you want me to." I guess I have to trust him. In H-Saw, swearing by name was the same as risking your life. If I had played H-Saw only once, I wouldn't have believed it, but I played it until I mastered it, so I had no choice but to believe it. In this world, there were countless cases of people killing themselves after breaking an oath by their name. Okay. Tertius' trustworthiness increased rapidly in me. Then it was time to do my job. I took off the robe I was wearing and met Tertian's eyes. "What are you doing?" "It's my turn now." Tertius looked at me with a puzzled face. "Here, put this on." "This?" "Yes." He looked displeased, but he took the robe I gave him and put it on his shoulder. "It's definitely big. When I wore it, it barely touched the floor, but when Tertius wore it, it stopped at his ankles. That's unfair." My hands trembled slightly, but I calmed myself down and put my hand in my pocket. I took out a small glass bottle that I had prepared beforehand. It was juice made from crushing moonflowers and white lizard tails. "I'm glad I made enough." "What is that?" "You'll see." I answered Tertius briefly and poured magic into the glass bottle. A small and faint light shone from my hand. Using magic wasn't hard. After using the healing skill, I realized how to use it naturally. It was like the instructions were automatically drawn in my head. It's done. The red juice in the glass bottle turned white as it received magic. That power. It's Kairos' power, the god that I serve. Tertius looked confused as he looked at the glass bottle. It couldn't be helped. It was supposed to be your place. Anyway, I drank the white juice in one gulp. Ugh, it tastes awful. Why are all the items in this world tasteless? Even pastoral poison was poisonous. While you drink that, why do I only have this? He looked unhappy as he spoke, but I ignored him. I have to go in now. If we waste more time here, the sun will rise before we finish the job. I tried to pass by Tertius, but he grabbed my shoulder. What's the problem now? He stared at me with a piercing gaze. It wasn't murderous, but full of suspicion. He made me sweat even though I knew he couldn't kill me. Then Tertius' mouth slowly opened. Who are you?